Hello, everyone. I hope that everyone is doing well. This is a series that I'm doing on the Gospel of Mark. The New Jersey Singles Group asked me to do 4 messages on Mark, and so I thought, well, while I'm doing those 4, why don't I just go through the whole Gospel of Mark? And so the first one I did already, and it's basically the beginning of chapter 1. Now I'm going to be going through the second half of chapter 1, and then we'll try our best to go chapter by chapter after that. And so if you're tuning in, welcome. It's good to have you. I love the Gospel of Mark. Even though it is the shortest gospel, I also feel like that it shows a portrayal of Jesus that is very distinct, in that Jesus is teaching about the type of Messiah that he's going to be. We'll get to that with chapter 8 especially. And discipleship. He focuses in on discipleship, but what kind of disciples we need to be. And so that's the Gospel of Mark. But at the beginning of Mark, as we talked about last time, the biggest thing that Jesus is doing, and Mark is doing in his gospel, is showing us who Jesus is. Starts off with Jesus being called the Son of God, and then he just goes and from kind of story to story and chapter to chapter, showing how that Jesus is the Son of God in the Gospel of Mark. So we're going to pick up with verse 35, and we're going to read through this last half of Mark, which is actually one of my favorite sections, not only in the Gospel, but in the whole New Testament, because it talks about a day in the life of Jesus. You know that song, that Beatles song, A Day in the Life. I woke up, got out of bed, dragged a comb across my head. That, a day in the life. Well, this is a day in the life of Jesus. And you don't get that type of picture about Jesus very often. So it's great that Mark gives us this picture of Jesus. So I'm going to read 35 through 39. And just to let you know, this will sound differently from any Bible that you're reading, because this is my own translation. I call it the King Jesus translation. Here we go. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up and went to a solitary place where he prayed. Simon and the others went eagerly, searched for him, and they found him. And they said, "Everyone is looking for you." Jesus said to them, "Let's leave this town and go to the surrounding villages, so that I may preach there also. For this is why I have come." He went into all of Galilee, preaching in their synagogues and casting out demons. So Jesus begins this day by getting up and going to a solitary place. He's already spent the night before in Capernaum, with the whole town basically showing up at the door where he was staying, very likely the house of Peter. And he heals many people into the night, and then gets some rest and wakes up before dark and spends time with God. That's a great thing that Jesus is showing us there, is that he got up early to recharge and to get his time with the Father. And then he went on after that and had a very, very busy day. But he began by spending time with God. And I think for us to see that in the life of Jesus, you know, what it makes me realize is, hey, if Jesus needed that time with God, how much more do I need that time with God? And if Jesus began his day focusing and centering and getting that time with the Father, how much more do I need to get that time with the Father? And that time with the Father can look a lot of different ways for a lot of different people. It doesn't have to look the same. For me, I love Bible study. And so I get in the Bible and read the Bible and come up with lessons and classes and that sort of thing. I love to walk in the morning and just spend that type of time, sometimes listening to a book, sometimes just listening to music, looking out, creation around me. But however you want to spend it, that's really up to you. It doesn't have to be the same for everyone. But it is important for us to get this type of time with God. And so that's what Jesus does here. And then you look in the next section here, when you look in verses 40 through 45, Jesus is going to heal a leper. But that's the beginning of many miracles that Jesus is going to do. And these miracles demonstrate that Jesus is the Son of God, that he's different than any other person that walked the earth then or walks the earth today. He's going to cleanse a leper. He's going to heal a paralytic. He's going to calm a storm. This is all things that he's going to do in the next few chapters here. So he shows his power over walking death, leprosy, shows his power over illness, like with the paralytic, shows his power over nature by calming a storm. He's also going to tell 4 parables coming up. We'll see how the crowds react. We'll see how the religious leaders react. We'll even see how his family reacts to all of these things. And that's what we're going to see in this next section. And in looking at that, what Mark is asking us to do is to think about how we're going to react. How are we going to react to Jesus cleansing a leper and helping a paralytic to walk and calming a storm? Do we see him as the Son of God? But let's read here in verses 40 through, I think it's 45. A leper approached Jesus. The leper bent down on his knees and begged Jesus, saying, "If you wish, you are able to cleanse me." Notice that idea of cleansing again. We've seen Jesus deal with unclean spirits. Now the leper is asking to be cleansed. One of the big things that you're going to see in the Gospel of Mark is this idea of cleansing. And even later on, when the Pharisees and the scribes approach Jesus, they're going to complain that his disciples aren't eating with clean hands, where Jesus has been cleansing people throughout his ministry. And that's what they have to offer, is that, oh, your disciples didn't wash their hands. When Jesus has literally been cleansing people of leprosy and getting unclean spirits out of people. It's a huge theme in the Gospel of Mark. Jesus moved with compassion. And I love that word, splanchnizomai. Jesus moved in his intestines, in his gut, to help people. That's splanchna, that's splanchnizomai, being moved inside to have action that helps people. That's who Jesus was. It says he reached out his hand and touched the man. More than likely, this is the first time this man has been touched in forever, because people did not touch lepers. The lepers were to declare themselves unclean and then unapproachable, and no one touched them. But Jesus did. And with his touch, Jesus doesn't take on the illness and he doesn't become unclean. Instead, he gives cleansing to the leper. If you wish, you are able to cleanse me. Jesus, moved with compassion, reached out his hand, touched the man, saying, I am willing, be cleansed. Immediately the leprosy left the man, and he was cleansed. After warning him, Jesus sent him away, saying, and this is interesting in Mark, it's called the Messianic Secret. See that you don't talk to anyone about this, but go show yourself to a priest and bring whatever cleansing sacrifice Moses commanded as a testimony to the religious authorities. Jesus asked the man not to tell anyone. And the big question is, well, if Jesus was trying to convert the world and to convert people, why did he ask the man not to tell anyone? And it's a bit of a mystery, for sure. But I think, to me, the best answer is, at this point, if the man had told too many people, Jesus would not have been able to carry on his ministry. Because you see that even in Capernaum, the whole town showed up at the door where Jesus was staying. And you'll see crowds following Jesus around. And you'll see the religious authorities already early in Mark looking at a way to destroy Jesus. So that's one reason. The second reason is because Jesus is going to later, beginning in chapter 8, really talk about the type of Messiah that he's going to be. And once he gets to that point and really starts teaching his disciples that he must be rejected, that he must suffer, that he must be crucified, that he will rise again, and be very specific about those things, then he no longer says, don't tell anyone. The Messianic secret fades at that point, because now Jesus is showing people the real type of Messiah he's going to be. And until he does that, people aren't going to be able to understand it, and people are going to get the wrong message about who Jesus is going to be. So that's the idea of the Messianic secret. But look at what happens here. Jesus heals the man, and he asks one thing. Well, two things, actually. Don't say anything and go make yourself right with the temple and with the priests. But it says, however, the man went and began to preach openly as a herald of the king about how Jesus cleansed him. He spread the news to such a degree that Jesus was not able to publicly enter a town in the area, which is, as I mentioned, one reason why Jesus might have not wanted the word to spread. Instead, he went into desert places and people came to him from every direction. Jesus says, don't say this to anyone, and he goes out and he tells everybody. And now, here's what I see when I read that is, this man, I don't think he was trying to trying to disobey Jesus at all. I think he just couldn't keep it in. Something so great had happened to him. He was ostracized from his community. He was outside of being able to function as a Jew. Jesus cleanses him of his leprosy, tells him, okay, sends him back to the community first and says, go make yourself right with the community. He does that and he realizes, I am now whole again. I can now go back and be a part of community. And he couldn't help but talk about that. He couldn't help but share that because what had happened was so incredibly great. Here's the thing with us. Jesus doesn't give us the Messianic secret. Instead, Jesus commands us to go into all the world and preach the gospel. And yet sometimes we keep it to ourselves instead of sharing it with people. If we really felt like we were cleansed the way the leper was and received healing the way the leper was, then how could we keep it to ourselves? How could we not talk to people about it? And so I want to encourage all of us just to look and see what Jesus has done for us and then use that as motivation to talk to other people about it. Okay, this closes out chapter 1. Next, we'll head into chapter 2, and we'll continue on with some of the miracles of Jesus that show that Jesus is the Son of God. Thank you.